Good morning. Welcome, everyone. This is the, excuse me, the conference center, or it's not conference center, the conference callback for It's Fine, I'm Fine, Everything is Fine, How to Overcome Your Imposter Syndrome and Own Your Worth. Um, Tanya and I would like to preference before we get started, we're not psychologists. This is based on our own experience and our own research. You'll see disclaimers on the slides as we go. So please know that this is just based on our own experience. Um, I also want to let you know that we are recording today's session. So if you would prefer not to be on camera, you can go ahead and turn your video off. You're not going to offend us by any means. And I also am going to ask for some grace and patience. I'm on a very small screen today, so we're going to make the adjustments accordingly. So apologies in advance. So with that, we'll jump right in. Um, I'm Kelly Wiley. I am not representing my organization today. I am, however, here as the Kalispell Bay Area Regional Chair. And I am a recovering, and I would say a constant recovering imposter syndrome team member. I got into the game in 1989 as a journalist, and every day I have some type of battle with imposter syndrome. And for me personally, it is more times than not because I'm comparing myself to the other giants that are in the industry. Um, some of those giants are my dear friends, but I still have that comparative lens, which you're going to learn is not the most healthiest way to move forward. When we did this presentation, it was actually a workshop, so we've truncated it just a smidgen for you all. And we were joined by Nathan Quevedo, who is the Communications and Public Relations Officer at the Merced County Office of Ed. Unfortunately, Nathan is not able to join us today, but he does send his warmest regards. And I'm also joined by Tanya.
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Tanya De La Cruz, and I am the Public Information and Engagement Officer with the Los Gatos Saratoga Union High School District. I've been here for about 2.5 years, and I am also very much a recovering imposter syndrome team member and definitely go back and forth quite frequently. Before I came to Los Gatos Saratoga, I was at the Moreland School District in West San Jose. And I started there as an EA, office manager, assistant to the superintendent and the board, and did that, God, for probably 9 years. Did that role in addition to communications and marketing and crisis communication. And when they finally opened up a PIO position in Moreland, my imposter syndrome really kicked in, and I didn't even know if I was qualified to apply for the job. Everyone else seemed be doing such amazing things, and I didn't feel like I was quite there yet. And so it really took a lot for me to say, you know what, I've been doing this work already for 9 years. I can do this, and really do that self-reflection and be more mindful of myself. And so that's part of my beginning when I realized that imposter syndrome was actually a thing and there are ways to battle it. And so I'm excited to be here and share with you all that I've been through and all that I've learned. Okay,
Awesome.
thank you. So before we get into the learning objectives that we're going to cover this morning or this afternoon, we would love to understand who's in the room. So if you're willing, put in the chat how long you've been working for a school district in your role. And we'll read some of the answers as they come up.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Johnson from Solana Beach School District, and I have been in the role for about 1.5 years. and I love it. But I left the Calstra conference this year and I said to one of my coworkers, "Oh my God, I have imposter syndrome. These people are amazing." And then a few days later, I get an email about this seminar. So thank you.
Oh,
Of
but
course.
Aaliyah, 10 years. Hi, Susie's third year. First year, welcome. It's amazing. There's no other job like it, in my opinion. Jessica's been with a school district for 7 months. Welcome. 14 years, Trisha. Woohoo.
Tanya, I'm gonna ask that you monitor the chat as a whole. It's
Yeah.
not letting me access it while I share screen.
Absolutely.
So you may have to drop the links too. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'll do my best. Okay. So Karen's 2 years. Kelly, you've been school PR for 10.5 years and 9 months, but who's counting? Congratulations. That is awesome. So between Kelly and I, we have many, many years of experience in school communications and many opportunities of attempts and failures. And so our workshop here today is our journey of how we overcame our own imposter syndrome and what we do to keep it at bay when it creeps back in, which we both shared happens sometimes more frequently than we would like it to. So today we are looking forward to sharing with you how you will learn about the different types of imposter syndrome. You will learn how seasoned communicators have handled their own imposter syndrome and how we continue to battle it when it creeps back in. We are hoping that you will walk away with a few tips and tricks to really quell that self-doubt. And then we're really excited for you to learn how to build upon your own network of trusted and professional thought partners. Okay, before we get started though, we really think that we need to get together a pep talk. This topic is going to be so enlightening, but sometimes some of these things, when you kind of reflect, it feels really heavy and may trigger less than desirable feelings. So the first thing that we want to do is give you your very own customized pep talk. So I am going to see how I can add in the chat a worksheet for you. Give me just a second. I didn't have the presentation. Hold on. I'm gonna grab it.
Sorry, we weren't prepared for me to be on a little screen. So thank you for your patience as we punt.
Okay. Okay. So I went ahead and just added a document into the chat that you should be able to click on, start our. Please let me know if anybody has any trouble opening it up or to copy it and make it your own. I think we're all okay. Okay, I'm gonna move forward. Okay. So on your paper, we are going to choose 4 different things. The very first thing that you're going to look at is I want you to look at the colors and you're going to pick which color you identify with the most, and then you're going to write that color in box number 1. So if you love blue violet the most, if that's the one that calls out to you, you're going to go ahead and write in box number 1 blue violet. So whichever color calls out to you, it's your favorite color, or one just pops, you're going to go ahead and write that in box number 1.
And it's important you write down the color as it is.
Yes. Don't make up your own version of it. Yeah, write down what it says there. Okay. Next, we are going to look for the number that you identify the most with in box number 2. So whether it's your favorite number, maybe it's a number your child was born, the date they're born in, you're going to write whatever number speaks to you. You're going to write that down in box number 2. Maybe you like the design of the number. Box number 1 was the color from the last slide. Box number 2 is your number that calls out to you. Box number 3, I want you to pick whichever letter you most identify with. Maybe it's the first letter of your last name, or just you like the color of the letter, but pick a letter that you most identify with today and put that in box number 3. Okay. And then finally, for the last one, for box number 4, I want you to pick whichever picture you most identify with. Maybe the one you think is the cutest. Maybe you have a favorite animal in there. And it doesn't matter like what you type on here. This is for you as long as you can find this animal in a couple minutes. So box number 4, you're going to go ahead and write down whichever animal speaks to you the most. Okay. Now, on this line, we are going to write down your corresponding pep talk based on the following. If we go to the next slide, for whatever color you pick for box number 1, that's going to be the very beginning of your pep talk. So if you chose blue violet, you're going to start your pep talk with, "Excuse me, but." So whichever your color that you picked in box number 1, that is going to be how we're going to start your pep talk. Okay, next. Depending on which number you picked for your box number 2, that is going to be the next part of your sentence in your pep talk. So if you chose number 12, that saucy personality is going to be the first part of your sentence after that intro. Okay, and then we'll move on. So box number 3, you had your favorite letter. I want you to go ahead and, based on what letter you wrote down, write the next part of your sentence. That's going to be your pep talk. So if you had M, for example, is like so totally awesome, that would be the next sentence in your pep talk.
You have some inner Valley girl in you,
I
Tanya.
do. The 80s comes out, huh? Okay, and then finally, for box number 4, you're going to go ahead and look for whichever animal spoke to you or whichever creature spoke to you that you most identified with, and you're going to finish up your pep talk with whatever the phrase is next to it.
Hey, Tanya, what was yours?
Okay, so now everyone should have a full sentence. Mine was, "Excuse me, but your DNA raises the roof, so get used to it." So that's going to be my pep talk that I'm going to keep referring to. If anybody else wants to share in the chat or share out loud what their pep talk is, please feel free to do so.
I redid it this morning.
Oh, awesome.
Much different this time around, but everybody says your soul is the next big thing 24/7.
Oh, I love that. Okay, we got Tiger. What you got going on? It's a problem, so get used to it. Tiger, your hair today makes miracles. Can I get an amen? Oh my God, I love that one. In my opinion, your hair today is like so totally awesome. So get used to it. You need to learn your personal style in a serious game. Mic drop. Love that. Ace, everything you do deserves a Nobel Prize for real. Everybody says your DNA just shimmers. Mic drop. These are some pretty amazing pep talks. Excuse me, but your DNA gets the party going. Now let's dance. I totally hear these in the AI voice that you see like on TikTok or Instagram all the time. I love this so much. Okay, so Kelly, you want to share with them what you did with yours from last year? I think it's such a great idea to keep.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we did this workshop originally in Sacramento, I did it on a Post-it because that was honestly what was available to us while we were doing the workshop, and I stuck that post-it in my notebook that I keep in my office. So randomly when I am flipping through, it will catch my eye, and then I reread it to myself. And it is that little boost, that little ray of sunshine that just puts a smile on your face. Because, like Tanya said, that you can't help but do it in the voice that gives it character. So it's just a nice, gentle little reminder.
I love these. Thank you for sharing, guys.
So let's take a look at what exactly is imposter syndrome. I know we all have our own definition, but we went ahead and pulled the Oxford Dictionary's definition for you, and they defined imposter syndrome as that persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. So pay attention to those three underlined words, the inability, deserved, and legitimately, because that's really what shapes imposter syndrome. So people suffering from imposter syndrome may be at an increased risk for anxiety, and I know that definitely speaks for myself. We also found an adorable little video that really puts that imposter syndrome feeling, brings it to life. So we're going to share. So Tanya and I want to leave you with that last little component today more than anything is that you've worked hard to be where you're at. And we know firsthand that this can be paralyzing, but know that you're not alone. So
Absolutely. I love that video so much. Now that we have a better understanding of what exactly imposter syndrome is, we really want to dig into the how and then how it tends to show up in our lives and our work. So, researchers have identified several common types of imposter syndrome. And while these aren't clinical diagnoses by any means, they are really helpful in naming the patterns we fall into. And I think what's important is once we name them, that's when we can begin to challenge them. So here are 5 types that might sound a little bit too familiar. I know the first time I looked through these, I felt like, yeah, like they just sounded like So me. So the first one is the perfectionist. This is the person that sets unrealistically high goals for themselves, and if they don't meet every single one, it feels like failure. So even small mistakes lead to big self-doubt. And in school districts, this might look like obsessing over a single typo during a board presentation, or maybe you're rewriting a press release over and over again, or rereading an email 5 times before you hit send because you want everything to be perfect. That's really the perfectionist in you that's speaking. The next one is the expert. The expert feels like they need to know everything, and if they don't, they're a fraud. They're constantly chasing certifications and training and information just to prove that they're worthy of their role. And for us, this might look like boring or not qualified to present or advise leadership unless we've read every updated board policy or know every single law that's coming out. And because you expect yourself to know everything, any minor lack of knowledge brings feelings of failure and shame on your part. The next one that we have here is the soloist. Soloist equates, they hate asking for help. They think asking for help is is failure. And so they are mostly about who completes the task, and they believe success only counts if it's achieved alone. So this is that person who's like, I've got it, I'm fine, I'll stay late and take care of it all by myself. And they do that. So in our work, this might mean maybe you don't loop in a colleague for support on a tough issue. Or if you're trying to do a project, you do it all on your own instead of delegating or asking for help. The next one that we have here is the natural genius. So this person believes things should just come easily. If they have to struggle or if they have to take time to learn anything, they think that they're unqualified for their position. If they don't get it on the first try, they assume they're just not cut out for the job. And so when you find yourself frustrated because maybe the first draft of the newsletter didn't write itself, this is your natural genius talking. And then finally, this fifth type of imposter syndrome is the superhuman. So this is someone who measures competence based on how many roles you can juggle and excel in. So the superhuman believes they must excel in every single area of their life. So career, family, volunteering, any side hustle you try, health. They just want to be the best all the time. They measure their self-worth by how many plates they can keep spinning without dropping it. And I think we all know, like, if you knew somebody like this, if you were talking to somebody like this is impossible to do, and it leads to burnout really fast. The truth is, most of us don't fall into one category. I know for myself, I tend to bounce between them depending on the situation. And recognizing your patterns in this, I think it's really powerful because awareness is the first step for challenging those imposter thoughts that come into your mind. The best part, I think, of identifying these, at first it's kind of heavy and you're like, oh God, that's me, that's me. You just start to see yourself. Is that once we start talking about it, we realize that we're all navigating some form of imposter syndrome and that we're not alone, just like that video shared.
And they will ebb and flow. They're fluid.
Absolutely. So now I want you to take some time and self-reflect and think about which type of imposter syndrome have you most recently identified with. So like Kelly said, it does ebb and flow, maybe depending on the project or depending on who you're working with. So we want you to think of the last big project you completed where imposter syndrome crept in. What type of imposter syndrome did you identify with the most? Were you a perfectionist where you wouldn't let anybody see your work until it was like completely perfect like you wanted? Were you an expert where you wanted to make sure you knew everything before you even started on the project? I know that can lead to some procrastination, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but you just need to take in all the information because you're afraid of being able to get started. The soloist, the person who just wants to do it on their own, just take care of everything. The natural genius, or maybe you're the superhuman who just wants to carry the whole project. And you're like, I've got it, I can take care of it all. And then you start burning out really quickly. So take the time and just kind of think to yourself, the last project that you completed where you felt imposter syndrome kick in, which one did you identify the most with?
I'll say just this morning and prepping for doing this, presentation. For me, it was 100% the perfectionist. I was like, oh my goodness, people aren't, it's going to be hard because it's on a small screen. All those doubts just started to come in. And that is a pattern for me. I do tend to sit mostly in perfectionism. Um, I think some of that has to do with being firstborn. And then superhuman. I very much feel that I've got to take on all the roles in my life, not just professionally. Um, and it's taken 53 years to realize that when you do that, can't do you can't do them well, right? Because you're spread so thin.
It's so true. I love everybody willing to share their imposter syndrome that they've been feeling. People are saying natural genius, but also for them, that's so me. Natural genius, the superhuman, perfectionist for sure. I think that fear that I definitely go back and forth between more than I would like to is perfectionist and the superhuman. And just like Kelly said, I think that definitely translates to home too. And so learning to ask for help, and I think you'll find people are willing to help you, even at home personally, right? People are willing to help you, but they don't know that you want it until you actually say something. I think it ranges on the day, but mainly perfectionist and superhuman. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing. I know this is such a heavy topic, and sometimes I just feel like so like seen, but not always in a good way. When you're talking about your faults or things you need to work on, and so it's so nice to see other people willing to be so vulnerable with this. I really appreciate that.
So as we did name, it does depend upon um, the day and what you're bringing to the table that particular moment. But there are some other underlying um, contributions to imposter syndrome. Um, in the research that we were doing, they named it as your origin story. Um, the two main components to that origin story is the impact of culture. Think about your own work environment. Is it a place where you can be vulnerable, or is it a place where you feel that you have to have all of the answers all the time? Um, and then the role of family dynamics was the other one that was extremely prevalent. Like I said, I'm the firstborn, so there is a lot of other roles and responsibilities that comes with that, either self-imposed or otherwise. But it very much does play a role in how I present myself, carry myself, go about my day, even if we're not thinking about it on the regular. Some of the other things that it's important to be aware of, and we're going to talk a little bit more about triggers and whatnot in a minute, but you need to take breath, take pause, and say, okay, what is my social emotional stance right now? Has somebody told me that this perhaps doesn't come naturally to you, so you need to work on it a little bit more? Um, or, just knowing where your emotional IQ is as you really start to break down what is triggering your imposter syndrome. So with that, Tanya will drop a link in the chat for you all. But we would like for you to take a moment, think about a time, most recent, when you felt that your imposter syndrome was activated, and jot down what it was you were feeling at the time. I
Yeah,
know,
sorry, go ahead.
I know for me, it my imposter syndrome comes in the strongest when I feel anxious. Like you were Tanya, you were gonna say.
I was gonna say, mine is overwhelm. So when I feel maybe like there's too many projects to do at the same time, or to maybe it's like a crisis communication and you don't have all the facts for everything. I definitely that overwhelm kicks in, and I think that's when my imposter syndrome hits me.
So think about what is going through your mind when imposter syndrome um, kicks in. Like I mentioned at the beginning, more times than not for me, it's because I'm doubting my self-worth. I'm thinking I can't compare to the other giants in the room. And then lastly, what is your behavior change when imposter syndrome is activated for you? I know I personally shrink. Um, it's just easier for me to become a wallflower, be quiet, take it all in, and not necessarily be a change agent or an advocate.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. I definitely feel like I get quiet. And I have to like recognize, okay, now you need to speak up or you need to say something. And so I definitely get quiet and listen more because I'm just trying to take it in instead of stepping up when I need to sometimes.
As Tanya has alluded to, as we've gone through, some of this feels heavy. So, please use this as your own personal reflection. We're not going to ask that, um, unless you're willing that you share any of these out.
So now that we've talked about the feelings and behaviors that we feel may get triggered, we're going to talk about different situations and places. So I'm going to guide you through a couple more prompts or a few more prompts. So prompt number one, I am triggered by situations that, so this could be something like maybe you're being asked to present something in front of executive cabinet or in front of people that you don't normally present in front of, or you're being thrown into a crisis communication situation that you don't have all the facts about. That one definitely is a trigger for me.
That makes me itchy too, not
Yeah.
having all the information.
Yes. And sometimes you're brought in last minute and you don't know all the conversations that have been had before. That's a trigger for me. Sometimes maybe it's a situation where you get vague feedback and you start to overthink and what somebody's actually saying instead of maybe just taking it at face value. So I want you to take a moment to think what kind of situations tend to send your inner critic into overdrive. Next, I want you to think about you're triggered by places that, so maybe this is maybe like a team meeting where everyone just seems more confident than you on the subject. That could be something that triggers your imposter syndrome. Maybe it's a social media thread, like on social media, you're seeing like another district is showcasing something amazing and you're like, oh, I should have done that, or oh, we should do something like that. Always comparing yourself. Where are you when those imposter syndromes kind of start to bubble up? So I am triggered by places that,
I think this one's probably one of the hardest ones to name.
yeah. So the next one is I am triggered by people who, and so this could be someone who intimidates you with their credentials or their confidence or maybe just their tone. It could be someone who might remind you of a past manager, supervisor, or a teacher, or just somebody maybe who made you feel small a long time ago. You know, when people are like that and you can kind of see those similar traits, you get those flashbacks that can trigger imposter syndrome. Maybe it's somebody who just seems like they have it all together, because, you know, comparison loves company, just like Kelly was saying, just having all the wonderful, amazing giants we have, you know, around us. You're just comparing yourself to that, and that will trigger some type of imposter syndrome. So, who are the types of people who unintentionally or intentionally spark those feelings of just not being enough?
I think of the 4, this is the one that triggers me the most.
Absolutely. And it's really hard not to compare yourself. I'm doing it constantly. I'm always telling my kids not to, but do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. And it's hard because, especially with Cowsboro, there's so much richness that's out there, and it's very easy to get caught up in the woulda, coulda, shoulda,
Yeah,
rather than the celebration of that's amazing. I'm gonna bake, steal, and borrow.
yeah. And so the last one, I am triggered by things that. So this could be objects, tasks, or reminders. So maybe a calendar full of deadlines, maybe a red pen when someone is editing your work. Maybe it's a camera pointed at you when the media comes. Or maybe it's just a certain phrase in an email, like just checking in, but you kind of read into that more. So, what are some things that kind of tip you into that imposter syndrome spiral? Now, I know these are a lot to dig into and a lot to actually write down or type up, but I think that it's important and really powerful to know what your triggers are, because then it gives you the space to say, okay, I see what's happening here. I don't have to believe everything my mind is telling me. You're doing a good job, and that's what counts. You need to just be able to talk your mind through that.
Little schoolhouse rock that knowledge is power.
Yes. Okay. So I know that this is all very personal. I don't, if anyone wants to share in the chat, maybe that's just their, they would feel better sharing, please feel free to do so. We want to give space for anybody who might want to share maybe something that stood out to you. Definitely no pressure at all. This is just an invitation, but if you like feel like there's a person, like a type of people or a situation, or maybe it is that email, like just checking in, maybe just saying it out loud will help kind of let go of it. Okay, no problem. We'll go ahead and move on. Okay, we can go to the next one, Kelly. Okay, so now we're going to look at understanding the impact of imposter syndrome and what it can have on your career. So as we've shared, and you've probably realized in yourself, imposter syndrome causes people to be concerned that they're going to be exposed as incompetent or incapable. And so as a result, people with imposter syndrome tend to engage in overworking or self-sabotage. And so the fact that you're here proves that imposter syndrome affects high achieving professionals, people who are successful in their job. However, when experiencing imposter syndrome, you're not able to enjoy the success that you have because you always believe that the success is unearned or someone's going to find out you actually shouldn't have it. So, in the case of this imposter syndrome cycle, those who engage in this tend to overwork, This is definitely something that I find in myself, that I use hard work and diligence as kind of a cover up for anything going on my mind that I think is like perceived as inadequate. So what this cycle looks like is you receive praise for a project well done. It results in this temporarily feeling good because you were validated and you got approval. And then once those good feelings subsided, you return again to worrying about your intelligence or your ability to do something or your ability to perform. And then that accomplishment you just did, it's not accepted as part of your identity, or you don't give it value in your mind. And so the next time you perform, it's as if that accomplishment you just had never existed. And then the cycle continues again and again over and over. And this can also happen in the opposite direction with self sabotage. Now, I don't think anyone purposely would self sabotage themselves. I mean, we're professionals, we know the job and we know the work that needs to get done. But self sabotage comes in many forms. It comes in the form of procrastination, and it comes in the form of maybe double organizing high stress events and what needs to go first. And one that is actually a mix of overworking and self sabotage is people pleasing. So, as a people pleaser, you say yes to everything. You volunteer for the extra task, you avoid saying no, and you put everyone else's needs ahead of your own. And because you want to be seen as helpful and capable and indispensable, it becomes the way you prove your worth. But here's the twist: people pleasing doesn't protect you from imposter syndrome, it feeds into it because you start overcommitting and overworking, and that leads to exhaustion and burnout. And you're inevitably, you can't meet every demand. And that negative self talk starts to kick in. And you might think to yourself, see, I knew I wasn't good enough, anyways. I knew I was going to make a mistake. And then you start setting up impossible expectations for yourself. And that's where self sabotage really creeps in. You procrastinate, you avoid asking for help, you downplay successes because you're stuck in this loop of trying to please everyone while doubting yourself at the same time. So, recognizing this pattern is the first step to breaking it. You need to set boundaries, you need to celebrate your wins, and you need to practice self compassion, which I know I'm terrible at. So, I'm always needing to work on that. And that can help you get out of this cycle. Next slide, please. So, another subtle but powerful impact of imposter syndrome is what's called intellectual inauthenticity. And we touched on this a little bit in the previous slide. So this shows up when you downplay your knowledge or expertise, not because you don't know something, but because you don't feel like you have the right to know more than others in the room. You might soften your language in meetings, or you pull back ideas, or you stay quiet when you have a differing opinion than somebody. So especially if you're worried, it might make someone else feel uncomfortable. I'm definitely somebody who does this quite frequently. So sometimes it's about trying to protect someone else's feelings. That's also me. Other times it's about not wanting to come off as arrogant or too confident. And what's really happening is that imposter syndrome is tricking you into believing that authenticity, like owning what you know and standing in your own perspective, is somehow threatening to somebody else. So many people with imposter syndrome are incredible at being perceptive and calming. They know how to read a room, they know how to adapt quickly, and they know how to say what other people want to hear. And so while the social intelligence can be a strength, it also becomes a mask, one that hides your real thoughts and your real opinions and ultimately your real value. So when you're constantly shape-shifting to fit in or to keep others comfortable, you're not giving yourself or others the benefit of your full contribution and everything you have to offer. And then over time, it chips away at your confidence and your sense of identity in your work. So part of overcoming imposter syndrome is learning to trust your voice, trust your gut. Even if it kind of goes against the grain, intellectual authenticity doesn't mean you always have to be right. It just means that you have to be willing to be real in your true self. Next slide.
So we're going to send you back to that self-reflection sheet you were working on earlier. And we would like for you to list 3 to 5 areas. I think 3 is probably think your Goldilocks moment, where you feel confident in or you perform well. Um, so for example, I'm most comfortable behind the scenes, being the director, if you will, behind the scenes of the play that's taking shape. Um, I'm also most comfortable in my writing. I would much rather write for somebody else than to be the one that has to deliver the remarks. So just bullet out 3 areas where you feel extremely confident or where you feel you perform well. Our intent in getting you to list those positives is to help you flip the narrative, to see that there's quite a bit of self-worth, and we want you to leave here owning your greatness. So think about how these skills have been positive for you. Uh, when I get to be that behind the scenes puppeteer, if you will, um, I get to feel involved and, very much a part of the action without um, feeling like that limelight is 100% on me. When I'm the one that's doing the writing or the scripting, I have a creative outlet. Um, and again, feel like I have some participation in whatever the event or scenario may be, with, again, not having the limelight. So next to each of those bulleted items, just list how those skills have been positive for you, if you will, please. And then the last thing we'd like for you, excuse me, to examine is, were those experiences imposter free? So I can say with confidence that when I'm the one running the show behind the scenes or doing the writing, it's imposter free for me. One, because I'm not allowed to get in my own head. Two, that limelight's not on me. So I'm not comparing myself to anything or anyone. And then three, it's a comfort level. These are areas that I know have been proven for me over the years. So just put a yes or a no if next to those bulleted experiences, if they were imposter free. And if they were, jot down why you think that was. Similarly, I guess if there were not, why do you think they weren't? What of those um 5 imposter syndromes were creeping in?
You know, it's funny about the last question. So I think about, for me, like an area that I'm competent in, similar to Kelly, is like writing. I absolutely love writing. And I'm trying to think, like, was that my writing imposter free? But then we go back to like where imposter syndrome stems from. And we talked about kind of your background and your cultural. And it's really, I think, for me, going back to like being young, like a little kid, and having people like praise me for my writing. So that's like always been in my head. And so I'm wondering if that's actually an area I'm competent in, or that's just where I like to get the validation. It's interesting to think about.
That's a deep dive.
It is. It just occurred to me right now.
So as you're finishing up that self-reflection, again, we know this is deep work. We know it's extremely personal. So just hold on to this for you. When Calsper posts the recording, they will also post the slide deck. So you can go back and refer to any of that at any given time. If you're like, what was that again? So we want to transition now into some strategies that can help you overcome some of those things that you've just named.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you have your pep talk handy, it might be a good time to give yourself a pep talk. I know sometimes after all that soul searching and digging or writing things that you haven't thought about in so long, sometimes you need that pick me up. So if you need to look at your post-it note or the paper, the document we gave you and say your pep talk out loud, just to put a smile on your face or lift your spirits, now is a good time to do that. Mine
Absolutely.
was, excuse me, but your DNA raises the roof, so get used to it. I needed to say that. Okay,
I think that needs to be a poster in the office.
right? Love it. I feel like raises the roof thinks me though. Maybe that activity needs to be changed. Okay, so now the part of what can we do to battle this imposter syndrome? So one of the most effective strategies to combat imposter syndrome is surprisingly simple. Make a plan and stick to it. So when we are caught in self-doubt, it's usually because everything around us feels a little bit chaotic. We're unsure of what's going to come next. We feel like we're not doing enough. And that uncertainty gives imposter syndrome so much room to grow. But when we create a plan, even a small one with subtasks, it brings focus and clarity. And it shifts us out of being reactive mode and into an intentional action. And so more importantly, it gives us a sense of control. So I'm going to put another document in the chat for you. So if you can click on this document, we are going to take the first step and get your organized plan for success. So we want you first think of goals that you want to set for yourself to help overcome this imposter syndrome. So do you want to learn a new skill, or maybe you want to create a new habit that will help you feel more prepared? So what we want you to do is where it says my first goal, I want you to think of something that you want to do, just one small goal that will help set you in the right direction to overcome this imposter syndrome. So maybe you would feel more prepared if you get your APR. Maybe you want to learn TikTok better so you can reach a new demographic with your community. Maybe it's time for you to start looking for that promotion or that next step in your current position. You can write that first goal here. And it doesn't need to be professionally related. Maybe it's something personal. Maybe you want to start meditating in the morning so you come in more confident. Maybe you want to just work on your self-confidence or start that hobby that you've been Pinteresting for the past 6 months that, okay, one day I'm going to do this. Like take that step, actually start doing that hobby that brings you joy. And if this has been so much and you can't think of a goal right now, that's okay too. I don't want you to feel pressured, but we want to give you time and space right here for a little bit just to think of what is that first goal I'm going to do to start tackling that imposter syndrome.
And there's no harm in it being simple.
Yes.
Don't let your imposter syndrome come in on this and make you think you have to shoot for the stars.
Absolutely. So my professional goal, I'll just talk while you guys are thinking, was actually, it's a big one now, but it's one I've been looking at, I feel like, for 10 years. So I decided, I think I'm going to start going towards my APR. But I've been watching it in the background and watching everyone else do it for ever, thinking, oh, this looks so cool. I totally want to do this, but never thought I was ready. And I realize that I'm probably always going to think I'm not ready. And I just need to force myself to just take that step. So that's what I decided to do this year. So while it's a big goal now, it took like 10 years of me just kind of staring in the background and watching everybody else.
And mine was personal, as I tend to lean into that superhero, imposter syndrome. So, um, I wanted to incorporate more home cooked meals into our week, which is no small feat when you have um, active family members that have commitments throughout the week. So I actually bought a calendar that's just for that meal planning. So there's some accountability. Um, I've used ChatGPT to say, help me plan some teenage friendly meals that reheat easily. Um, so uh, it's still a goal I'm working towards, but there's some very realistic satisfaction in being able to cross a few things off and to go back and say, oh, look, we did it 4 out of 5 times this week.
I love that one. Kelly, I just looked at the time and it's 12:27. And I think we end at 12:30. So we can go through this a little quicker than we planned if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll skip to the next strategy then, because it's a quick one. As Tanya mentioned earlier, keeping those pep talks near you, um, as silly as it sounds, it is a great tool. Will put a smile on your face. Like I said, you'll have the slide deck so you can go back and look at this, but this is for those of you that are contemporaries of Tanya and myself. This is Guy Smiley from SNL, and his daily affirmations. So, um, just to remind you that, gosh darn it, people like you, and that positive talk is important.
Absolutely. And then one of the most effective ways to combat imposter syndrome is to stop going it alone. So imposter thoughts thrive in isolation. They love to convince you that you are the only one that feels this way. Everyone else has it figured out. And asking for help means you're not good enough. And I battle that in my head. And I know that imposter syndrome is so much more common than people like to talk about. Every one of us needs a circle. We need a tribe. We need a trusted group of people who get the challenges of our work and remind us that, of our worth when our inner critic gets too loud. So that's where mentors and job alike group comes in. Having a mentor doesn't mean you're inexperienced. It means you're wise enough to seek guidance no matter how long you've been in this game. It means you value growth. And I think a great mentor offers perspective and encouragement, and sometimes just a much needed reminder that you're doing better than you actually think you are. Java-like groups, like what CalSPAR provided at the conference, I think the CalSPAR regional chapters are huge to join, and even just a few trusted colleagues across the district that can be lifelines for you. People who understand what it's like to juggle communications and media requests and parent concerns and website crashes. Like, it's so important to be able to talk to people who understand that and speak your language and who can validate your work. Again, and if you haven't already, I encourage you to seek out your people. Be intentional about building those connections, schedule coffee chats, send that email. We're all busy, and I know sometimes you can't believe like a month passed by and I totally meant to reach out to that person. So take the time to send that email and just have coffee with a colleague or a Zoom if maybe they're too far away. You just have to keep showing up and then your people will be behind you. The next one is very similar to finding mentor and double-like groups, but this is the importance of creating and establishing your dream team. Individuals with imposter syndrome believe they should do things without any help, like I said, and they don't develop that community of supporters. So different than mentors and double-like groups, these are like a dream team of people who can support you when you start to lapse or relapse with your imposter syndrome. And I think it's important to say that not one person is going to fill all of these dream team roles, but you'll get maybe 2 or 3 people, and it doesn't necessarily need to be people in school communications or in a school district. They can be people both inside your work world and personally who can help build you up. So really quickly, I'm just going to run through the dream team roles of what you'll be looking for. And I actually have a document that can help you write down, you can find your people. Here's our final document. You can write down the person. So, okay. For the mentor, I know Software has the colleague connect, so it's actually really important to have a mentor, but you can find somebody who maybe they are in a position you want to be in, or they've been through a challenge or situation that you've been through. And so you can connect with a mentor who can help you with your career, someone who's going to be open and honest about their own struggles, someone that you can share difficult moments with, and they can give you feedback, who understands what you're going through. The cheerleader, I think this one, it doesn't necessarily need to be someone in a school district or someone who knows your role, but this is somebody that you can rely on when you're feeling low and you just kind of need that supportive boost. They believe in you unconditionally. They know how to make you feel good quickly. And I think the hardest part of this is believing what this person says. You're going to think, oh my God, you're just saying that because you love me, or you're just saying this because you're nice. But you actually need to internalize the support that they give you and appreciate the lift that this person offers as your true leader. The grounder is somebody who gives you that reality check. That person in your life where you just need to say, okay, am I being ridiculous? Why am I spinning? And they just need to give you that reality check and bring you back to earth when things seem to be going crazy. The action planner is the person who really helps you, sit down with you and help you make informed decisions. You know that you might be spinning, and so they're able to sit down and say, this is what we need to do. These are the steps we need to take. Someone who's willing, who knows your work. They know all the players in your job and in your life, and they have the strong skills to help you with the interpersonal behaviors, and they can provide really useful suggestions to you. And then finally, what Kelly and I think is the hardest position to find is the imposter expert. So this is somebody who will help you stay accountable from and understanding your imposter syndrome and what it means when you have those imposter triggers, when you have the symptoms or the behaviors that come up. They are your accountability partner who understands your imposter syndrome and can help you with these different strategies. Like we said, some people will serve multiple roles on your dream team, and others might serve only one. So it's important to realize, though, that this dream team is not just going to magically appear and then you're going to be cured. You're actually going to need to find people and talk to them and let them know, hey, I need you to be my cheerleader. Is it okay if I come to you if I'm, having a bad day, or if I'm feeling these imposter syndrome thoughts come back? You're going to have to actually go out and find these people, which could be one of the harder parts too. But we hope you take the time to actually put a name next to this so you have this type of support around you. Okay. It is 12:34. Do you want to quickly go through this still? What would you?
I think if we just share this, but quickly.
Yeah. So these are tools that you can stay grounded, grow your confidence along the way, and I'll go through them really quickly. So journaling apps, or even just a spreadsheet, just to kind of track your wins, reflect your challenges, spot your patterns. There are apps like A1, Reflectly, or even a Google Sheet, like I said, where you can help track everything. I know I do this for press releases, and when the media picks up our stories, I track what we do. There's online courses that you can do if you want to learn something, if that's maybe something you put as a goal to learn a new skill. There's online courses like Skillshare, LinkedIn Learning, Coursera. Kelly, which one is the one you said you like?
Udemy.
Udemy, yeah. There's so many different places where you can go and learn a new skill. And learning doesn't have to be scary. Productivity apps. There are tools like Notion, Todoist, Trello, Asana. There's all these different ways that can kind of tame your chaos and put your tasks into smaller chunks, and to help you be more productive. And they have that mark too, right? Which we do, like when you write in a notebook and you need to cross it off. It provides that kind of similar opportunity as well. Daily affirmation apps. I think this one is huge. There are apps like I Am, Think Up. I think Kelly said she uses Calm. So just your phone can literally just tell you how awesome you are every single day. Maybe you need to hear it in the morning, and when you need that boost when that inner critic gets way too loud. And then finally, social media sparingly. I think when used with intention, social media is amazing for connecting you with others, exposes you to inspiration. It reminds you that you're not alone. We all, though, make sure not to get in that scroll trap and use it as a tool and not a comparison of what someone else is doing and you're not doing. We want to be able to use it in a positive way. And I want you to remember that imposter syndrome, it lives in silence. It lives in overwhelm. It loves self-doubt. And so these tech tools are just little nudges for you to say, like, I've got this.
3 more slides. Bear with us, please.
Yes. Okay, so as we wrap up, we really went over like the tools to strengthen your confidence, new optimism, a good social support in your dream team, and growth opportunities for yourself. And we just want to tell you, if you lapse, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you failed. When you talk
Will
about
happen.
it
It's
will
just a matter
happen.
of time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we don't want you to be hard on yourself. So when we talk about imposter syndrome, I think we both said that we are recovering imposter syndrome team members. This is all a process. And, you know, imposter thoughts, they creep back in all the time. Sometimes you might start to overcommit and you might start shrinking your voice again if you get a new team at work. And that's so normal. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. And so we're hoping that these tools and these strategies that we provided you with will help you kind of pause it when it comes on and then redirect it. You know, I think it's really important to notice that, you know, confidence isn't a fixed trait, it's a habit. It's something that we need to work on. So every time you show up and you have the courage to kind of redirect that imposter syndrome, even as uncomfortable as it is, you are building that confidence. So we just want to say, keep showing up, keep owning your greatness. Thank you so much for doing all the work with us and being vulnerable and sharing.
So before we let you go, oops, like any good action plan, there's always that commitment or our goals action step. So if you'll take a moment and on one of your self-reflection pages, just write a quick commitment. It can be I commit to exploring one of those apps that Tanya shared, or I commit to building my team. Um, so just take a quick minute, jot down what you're willing to commit to. And as you're doing that, we'll share that well, we will put this together last year. Tanya and I both leaned very heavily on this particular book, the Own Your Own Greatness. It's how to overcome imposter syndrome, um, beat self-doubt, and succeed in life. And it's got some amazing exercises in it, some of which you saw today. But I think it was like 14 bucks on Amazon. It wasn't a big commitment, and it wasn't super heavy in psychobabble. So um it's there if you'd like. And then finally in closing, we just want to say thank you